guard dogs of the war zone have stayed clear of the action for far too long. So tonight, they'll be taking back the reins in the arena to fight back against the competitors. That's right, folks. It's our House Robot Rebellion. And this is set to be a big metallic showdown. So let's see which competitors will be taking on which House Robot. Ooh, whatever you do, do not turn away, as this is bound to be one banger of an episode. Cassie with the CO2 ram against the matriarch of mayhem, Matilda with her flipping tusks and chainsaw tail. The brute force ramming power of Tornado up against our power-packed House Robot Shun with his bulldozer blade and his diamond edge sacks. The CO2 flipper of Tantom Gear up against our lethal Scorpion Dead Metal with his crushing pincers and circular saw. Hypnotist with a lethal flywheel up against our out of retirement House Robot Sergeant Bash with his flamethrower. Wheelie Big Cheese and the CO2 flipper up against our Knight of the Round Table, Sir Killalot. Chronic 2 and the CO2 flipper up against our lethal Pit Bull, growling his gnawing teeth. Nexus and their CO2 flipper up against our big daddy of them all, Mr. Psycho. Honestly, I think this one's more ego-based, if anything, for Nexus. Bigger Brother and the CO2 flipper up against Cassius Chrome with his left-right punch. And then something very special. King Buxton 20 Little Thing Spikes against Mean Dean's Revenge, an official House Robot rebuilt entirely for this. And Punja with ramming power against our newly built House Robot, Lucille the Eternal. Oh, let chaos commence. Cassius Flipper. Well, we've heard of machines with adjustable ground clearances, but never like this. The wheels, both the main and small casters, are connected to a pneumatic suspension system which help raise and lower the body of the machine, which would make getting underneath it very difficult. There's also an onboard gyroscope to help with turning, and the high-powered CO2 ram to throw the opponents up and over. Top speeds of 25 miles an hour, which is pretty quick for the competition. Of course, as we all know, speed can prove to be a problem, and there's a limited gas supply for the ram. Matilda Flipper Spinner. The matriarch of mayhem and the darling of robot wars, a beloved house robot, and has had her fair share of harsh and brutal beatings in her time. The front tusks have enough power to overturn the fools stupid enough to try and tangle with her, and the rear chainsaw tail is, well, actually quite ineffective nowadays. Sadly, her control is a bit of an issue, as she likes causing trouble for the competitors. She also can't right herself, which even her exposed wheels can't help. And while her exoskeleton is tough, her armor is made of fiberglass matting, and that's not exactly very tough.
Robot ears, stand by.
Cassius, with their low wedge and their adjustable ground clearance, along with a CO2 ram, and the matriarch of mayhem, Matilda, with her chainsaw and her front lifting tusks. The start of the House Robot Rebellion begins here.
2, 1, activate.
Who will come out on top in this fight? What did you do, Matilda? Like, nothing happened. Like, you've gone up the front of Cassius, and you just overturned yourself. Wow. Well done, love. Cassius, I think they're a bit surprised that happened. And Matilda, hey! How about that? Matilda righted herself. Nice job. I think that's the first time she's ever done that. Although, Cassius instantly goes, hey, nice job. Now do it again. And now flipping Matilda away. And again, up and over. And Cassius now pushing Matilda near the floor flipper. Which, yeah, what did you think was going to happen, Cassius? It's just going to right Matilda. You're in our arena, my friend. And our arena supports our house robots. Of course, it's going to help right Matilda back up. Although Matilda, getting a little bit of air from the spike, and now flipped over by Cassius again. And the spike does nothing to Cassius, who now rights Matilda again. And once again, Matilda rams up the front of Cassius. And you can see there the adjustable ground clearance in action. They're so low to the ground, and as a result, it's affecting their speed. They just pop up. after flipping Matilda up and over. And is this going to be... I think this may be the end for Matilda. It is now! Flipped into the pit! And that's the end of Matilda. Matilda loses the first fight of the House Robot Rebellion. Cassius, the victors after a honestly quite impressive battle. And a very dominant one at that. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Cassius for Series 4. It's a very unique machine, Cassius, with that CO2 ramp, but most importantly, its adjustable ground clearance. That is very unique, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of it. A shame for Matilda. She just didn't stand much of a chance against Cassius. Now for Fight 2, between the pushing power of Tornado and the axe and scoop of Shunt. Tornado Rambot. Pure brute force with whatever weapon they have attached, no matter which way up they are. The drive runs on 36 volts, which causes the machine to drive very fast. And with how the machine is built, they can easily slam and bash into anyone without cause for concern, with the batteries and motors dislodging and flicking about inside. Whether they have a blade, wedge, spike, or whatever else they had attached. But the exposed wheels are a worry for the team, as they are quite exposed and vulnerable. And there's a high ground clearance. Shunt! Flipper Axe Bot! A power-packed robot capable of pulling a fully loaded Land Rover, wielding a diamond-edged axe and 2 scoops, a rear plow, which has become effectively useless at this point, and a front scoop to help topple the competitors and push anyone on top. However, Shunt's wheels are fairly exposed, and he's not capable of self-righting.
Robot ears, stand by.
Tornado, the ramming box bot with a little disc attached. Pardon me. And Shunt with the diamond-edged axe, the rear bulldozing plow, and the front lifting plow bucket scoop.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Tornado the faster, and Axe dropping his axe down for no reason, and now drops it down on top of Tornado, but it seems to just glance off Tornado, who's pushing away at Shunt, slamming into his left wheel, and is doing a very good job at pushing Shunt. We saw that when they collided in Robot Wars 4 in the 3-way melee against Gemini and Caterkiller. And now Shunt holding Tornado against the wall. And Shunt will have to let them go. I'm sorry, Shunt. You may be the house robot, but this one rule you technically do have to, well, apply. Then again, when do the house robots ever comply with our rules? They're the biggest law breakers in the Warzone ever. Tornado stuck on the scoop, now free, and slamming into the side of Shunt, who seems a bit stunned. And what's that on the floor? Where does that come from? Is that important for Shunt? I don't know. But there is a problem with Shunt. His drive doesn't seem as fluid as it did at the start. And I'm wondering if one of his wheels is locked up. I'm wondering if all that pushing, all that damage done by Tornado has caused problems for the drive. Shunt, I don't think, knows really how to respond to this. He knows he's in trouble, and Tornado's pushing away. Up onto the spike does nothing. Over the flames, that does nothing. That's not going to affect Shunt in any way. And Tornado there onto the spike to try and get a hold of Shunt. What can Tornado do? How will Tornado push and control Shunt? Well, like that, really. And now for Tornado... I think all Tornado has to do is get Shunt in the pit without falling in themselves. And now there's Shunt on the edge of the pit. And it's only a matter of time before Shunt... I like how his axe is the only real thing keeping him up. That's quite impressive. But it's Tornado who will be going through. Down the pit goes Shunt. Oh. And now he's turned himself over. That's, well, that's a feat in and of itself for Shunt, I think. Shunt in the pits. No way out. Tornado. I just noticed Tornado's up and over. Is Tornado up and over? It looks it. But regardless, whether they're up and over or right side up, Tornado, the winners of this fight. And that's another point for the competitors. And truth be told, it all ended, really, the moment Shunt lost drive on one side. Tornado's drum and pushing power slammed into that side, and that was basically the end of Shunt, really, I think. He couldn't do anything else to stop Tornado. Tornado picking up another point for the competitors. That's 2-0. And can Fight 3 change that? Dan Tomkia and Dead Metal. Dan Tomkia Flipper. A strong CO2 flipper with quick drive and 2 tips at the front, which can be used as ramming spikes. A very tough armor as well, making getting through extremely tough. But the way the body is built gives a ground clearance issue, combined with the wheeling they do, and there's a limited gas supply for the weapon. Dead Metal Spinner. A lethal scorpion of a machine born from the recycled metal of fallen droids. The front pincers will grab a hold of you as he lowers his deadly circular sword down to scrap you for parts and make getting out of his clutches near impossible. And he can adjust his ground clearance too. However, he doesn't have the greatest of maneuverability, and that has cost him before.
Roboteers, stand by.
Dan Tomkia with the CO2 powered flipper and the front little spike tips currently resting on the floor. And Dead Metal, the lethal scorpion with his big pincers and his electrically powered circular saw.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
I think the wheeling will go... Dead Metal, not even getting off the mark. Here's me talking about how his maneuverability sucks. He's not even bothered to move. But now Dead Metal has a hold of Dan Tomkia and could have capitalized, but he doesn't for some reason. He's not very fast as Dead Metal, is he? Not as fast as Dan Tomkia, but once again, he's stuck on top. Oh! And Dan Tomkia's flipped Dead Metal up and over! And Dan Tomkia's flipped as well! It's not right, but look at this! That's the flip! Underneath Dead Metal! Over he goes! And that's it for Dead Metal! He can't self-right! He's well and truly out of it! Is Dan Tomkia trying to right him? I am not too sure. Look at his blade! His circular saw is bent completely backwards. He's on his own weapon. If Dead Metal wasn't in trouble before, now he is, because his weapon is gone. And he's been defeated faster than both Matilda and Shunt. Dead Metal in the pit. And that's the end of the House Robots. Out he goes. And that's another point towards the competitors as Dan Tomkia spins into light and celebrations after a very good victory and a very fast one too. One flip's all it took. And that's the end of Dead Metal. Well done to Dan Tomkia. And altering the score to 3-0 to the competitors, the House Robots letting the side down. You have to change that, guys. And hopefully the next fight can, with Hypnodisc and Sergeant Bash. Although given Hypnodisc's flywheel, honestly, there's a chance it might be changed to 4-0. Hypnodisc Spinner. A vicious flywheel spinning at 900 revs per minute and a fairly quick drive to boot. The self-riding armor is also effective at getting them back into the fight when overturned, although not seen it used much. They've had a terrific run this series before crashing out in the first round of the semis, but here, they'll still need to protect their exposed wheels from attacks, as well as avoid the crushing claws of whatever house robot they have to dance the tango with. Sergeant Bash! Flamethrower! Keeping order, Sergeant Bash, armed with front-crushing claws and a flamethrower mounted on a 360-degree turret, and has left many a roboteer hot under the collar. Pulled out of retirement just for this special competition, we'll be seeing how the old dog does against the newer pedigree of robots in this current day and age. The flamethrower may have a limited gas supply, but the biggest issue he'll have to contend with are his exposed wheels and his lack of a Shrimak.
Roboteers, stand by.
Hypnodisc looking so deadly with that lethal flywheel, along with that self-riding arm, and Sergeant Bash, the old war dog, pulled out of retirement just for this, with his front-crushing pincer and a 360-degree mounted flamethrower turret.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
And I'm wondering if retirement has somewhat hurt Sergeant Bash's game. I'm wondering, oh, there's a bit of piece on the floor, and there's more pieces scattering onto the floor from Sergeant Bash, and his flamethrower turret is just spinning like crazy. That's a problem. And that's actually another problem! So sad! The wheel's completely gone! Look at this attack! I wasn't even paying attention! But off comes the tire from that attack! And then Hypnodisc comes in with another attack, and there! Off goes the wheel! So now, Sergeant Bash has no true control, and he's also lost his bottom claw. His bottom claw for the pincer is gone, and Hypnodisc struggling away at the back side of Sergeant Bash. I'm not sure if that's going to do anything. The spike, the spike's turned on the Sergeant. Look at this. Sergeant Bash stuck on the spike, almost overturned the spike, and throws him over. What did Sergeant Bash ever do to deserve being bullied by our own arena? Apart from maybe retiring. Poor Sergeant Bash. He was pulled out of retirement just to participate in this competition, and he's getting ripped to shreds. Hypnodisc bouncing off the wall, bouncing off the Sergeant. Poor Bash. Up and over. And Hypnodisc being a bit friendly on the floor flipper. The floor flipper helps him and turns him into a spinning top. Look at this. There goes the floor flipper, firing him away, and Hypnodisc spins him away and actually rips off the front part of the flamethrower of Sergeant Bash. And Bash in real trouble because they've only got one wheel, and now their entire front pincer is gone. And this is a real turn-up for Bash, being torn apart by Hypnodisc. And I'm wondering, going into this, if any machine will be taught a lesson by the house robot. Sergeant Bash is, in fact, Sergeant Bash is being decimated. He's got one wheel and no driver. And this is all Hypnodisc. I think no matter what happens, this will be Hypnodisc because technically Sergeant Bash has no real control, can just about move out of his circumference, and down the pit he goes with a final strike from Hypnodisc. Look at this. The charge there. One smack, two smack, and slide into the pit. Too much weight, and down goes Sergeant Bash into the pit. And another victory for the competitors with Hypnodisc spinning in the light. A great victory for the Rose family, and such a shame for the old flaming war dog of Robot Wars, Sergeant Bash. Maybe you should have stayed in retirement. Bit of a shame, really, for Sergeant Bash. Came out of retirement just for this competition, and he was torn apart by the flywheel of Hypnodisc. Good grief, that's what that thing can do to the house robots. Grief. Oof. Poor Sergeant Bash. But yeah, 4-0, as I called it. And now for Battle 5 between Wheelie McCheese and our Knight of the Round Table, Sir Camelot. Wheelie Big Cheese Flipper. Roger Plants built a very powerful flipper in Wheelie Big Cheese, and it is a shame we never got to see it go any further in the competition. Maybe next time, hopefully. The CO2 flipper is probably one of the biggest the series has seen, but the big exposed fuels may prove to be a major problem for them going forward, as well as the limited CO2 supply. Circular-Lot! Crusher! Our master of disaster with a much higher weight that'll make toppling him even more of a challenge. Over 500 kilos of doom and gloom, a lance to chew. The hydraulic claw will cut through, and will be dropping what's left of you down the loo. Virtually indestructible, has never really been defeated, and doubtful that it'll happen here. The tracks may be exposed, and he may not have the greatest of armor protection. But believe me when I say that defeating Sir Killalot is a lot easier said than done.
Robot ears, stand by.
Wheelie Big Cheese with Roger Plant and the CO2 powered flipper, one of the biggest in the competition. And Sir Killalot, the Knight of the Round Table with his lethal lance and devastating crushing claws.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
And just a quick reminder, those jaws, those crushing claws on Killalot, fashioned from the jaws of life, used by rescue services to free people trapped in cars. And Killalot has destroyed many a roboteer in his time. Wheelie Big Cheese trying to flip Killalot to no success. Trying again. I think if Wheelie Big Cheese was to try and flip Killalot, it would have to be at the right angle, but it's not working, and Killalot now seems to have Wheelie Big Cheese in his clutches. The lance through the bottom of the flipper, but now Wheelie Big Cheese is free to come back. The floor flipper giving Wheelie Big Cheese a little bit of problems, but Wheelie Big Cheese can come out of that. Now, here's actually something I should also mention. Roger Plant has mentioned how he believes he can throw Killalot. That's why this was set up, because Roger Plant thinks he can send Killalot up and over and defeat him, but it doesn't seem capable. He's too big. You can fire your flipper all you want, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything, and you can't push him either. And Wheelie Big Cheese, unfortunately, in a bit of problems. Is everything okay for Wheelie Big Cheese? Well, no, because they're trying to flip over Killalot, and it's an easy feat. It'd be great to see if they could, though, but I don't think it's going to happen. And Wheelie Big Cheese throwing themselves up and over, and oh, a good collision with the lance of Killalot, and throws themselves back up. Maybe they'll come in again. Killalot, meanwhile, just spinning around on the spot because he knows he doesn't have to do anything. And Wheelie Big Cheese hasn't moved for a while. I think Wheelie Big Cheese is immobilized.
Cease.
And cease is called. The judges agree. There's no life in Wheelie Big Cheese. I think Wheelie Big Cheese is broken down. And that means that the point goes to Sir Killalot and the house robots. I told you, Sir Killalot is practically invincible. But did you believe me? No, and look what happened. You broke down and crashed out, and Sir Killalot takes the point. For the house robots, 4-1 to the House Robots. Although their competitors are still in the lead. But can the House Robots now pick up another point between Chronic 2 and our lethal Pitbull Growler? Chronic 2 Flipper. Glad to see they've prepared themselves for this competition after the serious damage they took from identity theft in the Death or Glory. The CO2 Flipper is still quite strong and don't think that'll be changing anytime soon. But there is a limited CO2 supply, and as we've seen in the past, their armor isn't exactly the toughest. Growler. Crusher. A vicious and extremely dangerous pitbull with an even more dangerous bite to match. When he's off his leash, you had best get out of the way unless you want to become his new chew toy. And if you think you can outrun him, guess again. He's a lot faster than you think, and he will eventually grab a hold of you and have his way. And if there's one thing Growler really doesn't like, it's being overturned and having his tummy tickled.
Robot ears, stand by.
Well, this is going to be an interesting fight, actually. Here's what this fight is. It's basically a hedgehog against a dog.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
That's really all this is. Chronic 2, the hedgehog, or wedgehog in its case, and Growler, the lethal pitbull driving over the pit, and Chronic 2 trying to lift up Growler, but I don't think his weapon's powerful enough. So what can Chronic 2 do? Well, apart from getting ramped up by Growler. I'm trying to flip Growler to no success. And will this end up being another point to the House Robots, I wonder? It looks like it probably will be. But Chronic 2 is stuck in that corner, and Growler, well, no one ever said he was a good boy. Not when he's let off his leash, and he's holding Chronic 2 there. And I'm thinking there may be a problem, because Growler won't let go, and Growler has to at some point. Chronic 2 can't really push away. The machine too heavy. Can Chronic just turn away? Yes. And now for Chronic 2 to get screwed over by the spike, and for Growler to send a final push into the pit. And that's Chronic 2 down, with Growler resting on top of him.
Cease.
Chronic 2 falls. Growler wins another point for the House Robots. The House Robots are making their comeback here. And will that comeback continue rolling? We'll have to wait and see, but a great victory there for Growler and the House Robots. And it is a bit of a shame for Chronic 2, because I don't really think they had the power to do anything to Growler. They didn't have the power to flip them up and over. They didn't have the power to out-push him. Growler had Chronic 2 basically the whole fight. Commiserations to Chronic 2. Well done, Growler. And now for the 7th fight, which I think is more ego-based. Nexus and Mr. Psycho. Nexus Flipper. The speed and drive may just prove to be essential going into this competition, as well as the CO2 powered Flipper. Still not been able to live up to the potential its anti-weight counterpart demonstrated, but it does seem to be getting there, provided the CO2 supply doesn't run out. Mr. Psycho! Crusher Axebot! You thought Killalot was mean and fearsome? Well, medieval incarnate, with evil coursing through his veins, and will destroy anyone who dares challenge him. His huge hand will pick you up for him to then do with you whatever he wants at his leisure, powered by 2 9-ton hydraulic rams, and his big hammer will come down at a deadly force wearing 30 kilos. If you thought defeating Killalot was hard, then just come try your luck with Psycho.
Robot ears, stand by.
I'll give Nexus this. They've got bolts for wanting to pick a fight with Psycho. Can Nexus CO2 Flipper do anything to the big lug of Psycho with his hand and hammer?
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Let's see. Well, the hammer comes down immediately, so that's probably going to be worthless. Hey! And there is a fair, decent bit of power behind that flipper if it's able to at least somewhat lift Psycho off the ground. That's quite impressive. Where's that smoke coming from? I think that smoke's coming out of Mr. Psycho. Is something burnt out already? I don't know, but Psycho not letting that deter them, pressurizing Nexus, and Nexus to come back to try and flip and topple Psycho to no real success. And Psycho now slamming Nexus into the wall, and that's going to cause problems, especially with Nexus stuck on the claw. But Nexus free and trying to lift again. It's a tiny lift, so it's not all that impressive if you really think about it. It's impressive, but not all that impressive. Now, Nexus is stuck on the spikes. Yes. Right, and now Nexus is driving into the wall. I'm wondering if that slam that Psycho did to Nexus has affected them. But then again, Psycho seems to be having a bit of trouble, and the spikes don't seem to be on Psycho's side. But he's very huge, he's very heavy. So those spikes aren't going to do anything to him. But now, Psycho coming in the back of Nexus, and Nexus is off the ground and hoists Nexus up and over. But Nexus can right themselves, no problem. And holy, look at that! That is very impressive. Look at this. They come around to the side where the claw is and lifts Psycho off the ground. So he's only on one track. That was very impressive, and that could be Nexus's key to victory, to topple Psycho from that spot. Goes in again and actually has better purchase. Has a better purchase going at Psycho's left-hand side than they do at his right. But now, Nexus will also have to be very wary because Psycho will come at them. And Psycho seems... Actually, Psycho seems quite slow and sluggish now. He doesn't seem as fast as he was earlier. And here's Nexus again coming up the arm. But I'm wondering if Nexus has used up their CO2. Because don't forget, there is a limited gas supply for the flipper. And I'm wondering if Nexus has used all of it. Because if that's the case, then there won't be much to do to Psycho. You can keep firing a flipper against Mr. Psycho, but it won't do anything if there's no real power behind it. Continuously trying on the floor flipper, which if the floor flipper through Psycho, that would be very impressive, and I think it even tried to, but Psycho, such a heavy machine. No way the floor flipper's gonna throw him over. And I've got to give props to Nexus, because they're holding in, constantly on the attack on Psycho, and are holding their own, and are very much being the aggressive dominant in this fight. While Psycho getting slower and slower. And I'm wondering if everything's okay with Psycho, if he's worn out. I think he may be just a little bit tired, I think Psycho's batteries have gone because now there's no movement in Psycho except from the little pushes from Nexus. I think Nexus has just defeated. Okay, well, there's a little bit of a flip from the floor flipper onto Psycho, but I think Nexus has won.
Sheesh.
I think Nexus, the last bot standing in this fight, is the victor. There's no life in Psycho. And I'm being relayed a message from the judges. Psycho immobilized. The victory goes to Nexus. How about that? Nexus's gamble actually paid off. Well done, Nexus. I am speechless. They defeated the lethal Mr. Psycho! Brilliant! Well done, Nexus! That's the best victory they could have! Next up, Bigger Brother and the boxer Cassius Chrome! Holy cow! Bigger Brother! Flipper! Team Captain Joe Watts describes Bigger Brother as a nightmare in metal. The armor is very tough and the CO2 powered flipper is very effective, even if it is just for ramming power. The speed of the machine is quite impressive too. Shame it didn't go further this series. But the armor isn't indestructible and there's a limited gas supply for the weapon. Other than that though, yeah, it's basically invincible. Cassius Chrome Rambot. Our big mechanical heavyweight boxer with the lethal left-right jab from his boxing fist, which weigh 15 kilos each. His front shovel will also help clean up the mess he's made of anyone who got in the way of his fists, and will do it very speedily. The only real issue he has is that he's not capable of self-righting himself.
Robot ears, stand by.
Bigger Brother with the CO2 flipper and tough armor. And Cassius Chrome, the boxer machine with its two punching fists and the front
3,
scoop.
2, 1. Activate.
Now this should be interesting. Bigger Brother, oh hello! Bigger Brother being pushed against the arena wall by Cassius Chrome. And can Bigger Brother fire their flipper to throw Cassius Chrome over? The answer to that question is no. And Bigger Brother in trouble now. Now trying to get the flip on Cassius Chrome. Get the flip, but not on Cassius Chrome. I don't think they have the power to flip them. I think he's too heavy. And he's pushing away at Bigger Brother, just like what Growler did to Chronic 2 and nearly went down the pit there. Bigger Brother, trying to back up and think of another strategy, I guess. I got nothing. Actually, Cassius Chrome. Is Cassius Chrome okay? No, I don't think Cassius Chrome is. I think his right side's gone. And that's the third time that's happened. That's the third time one of the house robots has lost drive on one side. It happened with Shunt in their fight against Tornado. It happened against Sergeant Bash when they took on Hypnodisc, although that was because they had the wheel ripped off. But now it's happened again here with Cassius Chrome, and I think that's gonna cost him because Bigger Brother will take advantage and try and, well, find a way of getting rid of Cassius Chrome if possible. And I think Bigger Brother is trying to use the problem Cassius Chrome has for their drive to their advantage, to get Cassius Chrome into the pit, to try and steer himself into that pit. That's what I think he's trying to do, but to no real success because there's still enough power and drive in that side to give a good turning circle, and it's enough to help steer Cassius Chrome away from the pit, away from any real danger. And Cassius Chrome. Bigger Brother, stay away from the spikes. Bigger Brother now trying to flip again, but to no real success. And now Cassius Chrome motionless. I think Cassius Chrome's burnt out. Just like what happened with Mr. Psycho in their fight against Nexus. And don't forget, I was kind of mocking Nexus for deciding to take on Mr. Psycho, thinking it was a bit egotistical. But Nexus got the victory and stood up, lasted the entire fight, which could have gone to the judges, honestly. And Cassius Chrome, a couple shunts from Bigger Brother, close to going down the pit. Now Bigger Brother holding up their flipper to use the wedge front to try and slam them down, hoping it will help, but I don't overly think it's helping a little, but I don't think it's helping all that much. Machine very much heavy, and he keeps coming back to do a shove, but sometimes Big Brother misses their charge, which is interesting. And now they've missed the charge. Well, I don't think it really matters. Bigger Brother, they may be in the pit, but Cassius Chrome stopped working a while ago. Cassius Chrome immobilized. Oh dear. And that is 6-2 to the competitors. And I don't really think the house robots have a chance of pulling this back now. Cassius Chrome broke down and Bigger Brother takes the win. And now it's time for Battle 9 between King Buxton 20 and the original house robot, Mean Dean's Revenge. King Buxton 20, Lifter. The front-lifting ramming spikes proved to be a seriously effective weapon in this series, especially after using them to toss a machine out of the arena. The speed is also just as quick as its predecessor from Series 1, but it also has the same flaws as its predecessor 2, exposed wheels and not very strong top armor. Mean Dean's Revenge, Flipper was actually the first official original house robot back in 1994 Robot Wars and seemed to be rather basic in design. A domed body with a big swinging flipper that will send you up and over, and now seems to have massively upgraded for the competition. His weapon can help himself right, which is a major plus as no other house robot has the ability to do that, but he also has a high ground clearance, and that can be taken advantage of.
Robot ears, stand by.
King Buxton 20 with the lifting spikes up against the original house robot with his giant flipping spatula now fully upgraded, Mean Dean's Revenge.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Hoping to get revenge and he's flipped himself already. Well, that's just fantastic. And now up goes King Buxton 20. Look at this. He's just fired his weapon and he's thrown himself over. That's incredible. And I think that just shows how powerful that weapon on Mean Dean's Revenge is. It's a lot more powerful than it was before in 1994. And I think that just shows how upgraded he is. King Buxton 20 overturned, uses Mean Dean's Revenge to roll himself back over, while Mean Dean's Revenge keeps firing their spatula to try and get revenge. He's just up and over King Buxton. It's just fantastic. Meanwhile, King Buxton exploiting the ground clearance and rolling Mean Dean's Revenge up and over. And that's going to be a problem and throws him over. And now down the pit. And that's it for Mean Dean's Revenge. He's in the pit and I don't see him coming out. Maybe he can. King Buxton 20 doesn't think so. They're spinning around in the lights. And...
Cease.
Caesar's gold, meaning revenge, in the pit and out. And that is such a shame after all that work on the upgrades. Didn't seem to do him much favors, did it? King Buxton 20 exploited the ground clearance and, well, the rest is history. It was great seeing Mean Dean's Revenge back in the arena after so many years. But unfortunately, 'twas for naught. King Buxton 20 victorious in the battle. And now, for the final fight of the House Robot Rebellion, Punjar and our newly built House Robot, Luciel the Eternal. Punjar Rambot. A classic machine from Battlebots that actually started its robot competing story back in the 1996 Robot Wars US Championships before competing in the 1999 Battlebots Long Beach and Las Vegas competitions. The front ramming plow is low to the ground and has great pushing power behind the four-wheel drive system, but there's no Shrimmek on board and the armor is very weak compared to most machines nowadays. So surprised they managed to completely rebuild the machine after what Peace and Pride did to them back in the Death or Glory. Luciel the Eternal. Control Bot. A house robot that we built specifically for this competition, and is the third house robot to use a four-wheel drive system. Her big monstrous pincers will grab hold and grab you back to her den, or maybe even the flames will just straight up drop you down the pit. Looking forward to seeing her in action, though I am concerned for her lack of a Shrimmek.
Roboteers, stand by.
The final fight of the House Robot Rebellion with Punjar and the Scoop, Luciel the Eternal and her crushing pincers. And can she help the House Robots win this fight and save them a little bit of face?
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Well, let's wait and see as Punjar's speed... Why is Luciel gone into the corner patrol zone? Well, had a hold of Punjar, but she didn't capitalize, which is interesting. And now Punjar... looking for a good way, I think, to deal with Luciel. Okay, I'll be honest, we haven't really tested Luciel the Eternal, so sorry about that. But she can grab a hold of Punjar, and oh, she's gone up the top of him! Well, that's a problem. She's gone up the top of Punjar, and if Punjar rolls Luciel over, that's it! And up and over! That's the end of Luciel! Look at this! Luciel the Eternal on the scoop, pushed backwards and thrown over. No self-righting mechanism. Luciel the Eternal immobilized. She has failed the House Robots, unfortunately. Punjar throwing her down the pit. We mentioned she hadn't really been tested. And that was probably a mistake on our part. Punjar throwing themselves over the edge of the pit. Luciel, the only one keeping them out. And that is such a shame for Luciel the Eternal. We're not going to hold it against her, though. It wasn't her fault. If anything, it was more our fault for not properly testing her. But it's Punjar winning it for the competitors. The House Robots did their best, but the competitors came out victorious as they send them back to the back benches. Great to see them all back in the war zone, but this will be the last time for a while. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.